All right. So we've had a little bit of confusion on the compensation breakdown on the listing agreement. So let's go through that real quick. So just to recap, start from the top. We are using, as a brokerage, we have decided to use the F4B listing agreement. This automatically populates into your dot loop when you select a template, any of the listing templates. It's going to pull this form in. This is the form that we are using. So let's go down and look at the compensation section. So line 22 is typically what we're going to be using. Obviously, there are some situations where you're going to use the flat fee, but typically, 85, 90% of our contracts, of our listing agreements, they are going to be a percentage of the gross sales price. So to do that, you check the box on line 22, whatever percentage you have negotiated with your seller, that goes here. This is the compensation due to Epic Realty. That's not the total. If they're offering buyer brokerage compensation, that is covered in lines 33 and down. This is strictly what we are being paid as a brokerage. This is what the buyer brokerage is being compensated. So that is separated. That is new. This line used to be the total compensation on the old listing agreement. You would put your 7%, whatever percentage it was, you would put that there. And then at the very bottom, you'd have a breakdown that, hey, we're going to pay 3% to the buyer's brokerage. That is no longer the case. This is strictly what is due to the listing brokerage. This is the buyer's brokerage. It is completely separated now. 24, this is where we start to protect our commission, our compensation. 24 is what you would use for a flat fee upon listing. We typically are not going to do that. It just cause so we don't have a trust account set up. They would have to Zelle the money or find or wire the money to Epic's corporate account. It's just more headache than what it's worth. Line 25 is where we protect our commission. This is, if this isn't checked, they could sell it to Jim Bob down the street for a sub owner while they have it listed and face no repercussions. And you're out all of your marketing and time. This needs to be a flat dollar amount. You put 3.0 here and or whatever the percentages appear, and you're committing yourself to $3. I mean, it's not a percentage. This is a flat fee. And to figure that, you would take your sales price, say it's $100,000, and you're charging, say, just for even, just to make it easy and make it simple, say you're charging your seller 3% to enact or to enforce the entire commission that is due to you as the listing agent. You would put $3,000 here. 3% of 100,000 is $3,000. That is the amount you put here. It doesn't have to be the amount that you put here. It can be whatever you and the seller agree on. It could be less, it could be more. Whatever you and your seller agree on, that is the amount that goes here. And this line 25 and line 26, that is strictly if they sell it or lease it out from under you while it's listed. Excuse me. Line 27, line 28. These lines cover it if it's canceled. And a seller cannot unilaterally cancel listing. The broker has to approve the cancellation. So if you want to put something there, you're more than welcome to, but you have to let them out. It can be used as a deterrent. If you say you put the same number here, it uses that as a deterrent to keep them from canceling on you for no reason. So these lines, 25 through 28, this is your protection. If you don't utilize this, you are not protected. Your commission is not protected. They could sell it from you, out from under you, no penalty. They could cancel it with no penalty. So if you leave this blank, you are not protecting your commission. And make sure, not just on this form, every form that you fill out, make sure you're checking every box that the section or those lines are applicable. If you don't check that, then it gets to court. It's a 50-50 toss-up if a court says, well, maybe there's intent there, maybe not. You're leaving it up for interpretation at that point. Don't do that. Don't be lazy. Check your boxes. Be thorough with your documents. Variable rate. This is when you, as a listing agent, will accept a smaller or a lesser amount, or maybe a bigger amount, whatever it has, as long as it varies from what you're normally offering another agent. This is where that goes. A lot of people, just a real life example, say you take a 6% listing, so you got three here, three down here, but if you bring the buyer, you're willing to do it for 5%. You would put that here. If listing agent procures buyer's brokerage compensation to be 2%. It could be that simple. Other. So I've seen a lot of well, here lately, we've had a few agents that will do, if it sells in 30 days, the percentage of compensation that is due to the broker is X. If it sells in 60 days, it's Y. If it sells in 90 days, it's Z. So it puts more of an emphasis on selling the home faster for the agent. So that's something that can go in other. Buyer brokerage compensation. If your buyer chooses to offer compensation, you will check line 35, or you'll click that. It's a circle there. If they don't, you skip all of this, you check line 34 and it's done. But if they are offering compensation, check line 35. If it's a flat fee, you would put that there. Typically, it's not going to be a flat fee. So not, like I said, 85-90% of the contracts or the listing agreements we do are going to be a percentage of the sales price. So you would check line 38. You would put that percentage here. A lot, I would say almost half of the listing agreements that we're getting right now are not putting anything here. They're just putting other. It's checking 40, and then buyer brokerage compensation to be determined upon each offer, to be determined upon an acceptable offer. That kind of verbiage. So a lot of the listing agreements we're seeing, other is being utilized and not lines 38 and 39. Let's scroll down just a little more. Line 47 is incredibly important. If you don't put it, so Natalie likes to do 90 days. I typically do 180 on ours, on mine. So that's 6 months, 3 to 6 months. I think that's plenty of time. If a buyer that was shown the property buys the house the day after, if they decide they want to wait the listing out, and say the buyer knows the seller, and they talk to each other behind all the agents' backs, like, hey, the listing expires on October the 18th. So on October 19th, I'll sell it to you for sale by owner, and we can avoid $10,000 in realtor fees. If you don't put a number here, then you're not protected. So you need to put a number of days here. So between line 47 and lines 25 and 27, that is your protection. If you don't utilize those, your listing agreement does not have protection. If you have any questions on any of this, you got my number, you got Natalie's number, give us a call. One thing that we want to do is be able to educate our sellers. So they also need to know that just because you put a number here, say you put 3% here, or maybe 2%, just because you put that number here doesn't mean that's the number that's going to come in on a contract. And you need to be having that conversation with your seller on day one. Whenever you're filling this form out and you're going over it with your seller, they need to understand just because you put a number here or you choose not to offer compensation does not mean that when you get a contract in, that the buyer's broker and the buyer won't be asking for them to pay the buyer broker's compensation. The way our contracts are built now, it's built into the contract. More than likely, especially if they're strong agents, they're going to be asking for commission inside of that contract. And if it's tied to a good offer, now your seller has a decision to make. Do they accept it? Do they counter back and risk losing the deal? So that's a conversation you need to be having with your seller on day one, and you need to be confident enough to have that conversation. So if you're not confident enough, you need to go back into these videos that we've done, go back into all these trainings that we've done, and educate yourself that way that you are proving your value to your seller and you're putting them in the best position to get the most money for their house. If y'all have any questions, shoot us a text, give us a call.